It's the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
You do the intro. We're live.
It's the Joe and Joe Weather Show on a Wednesday night, the 12th of August. Welcome.
Wednesday, August 12th, 2020.
I can't do it as well as Don Pardo.
No. But then you have to do you have to put your hand over your ear. This
It's
is
the
Don
Joe and
Pardo,
Joe. Yes.
brought to you
Oh,
by
God. Yes. Brought to you
Depends.
by, yes.
We're getting there.
Now.
Well, we won't rush it. Okay, before we get started, you remember yesterday I told you the kind of day I was having
Yes.
with everything.
All kinds of technical
Oh,
problems and everything else.
well, it didn't. It continued after the show was done, and
Okay.
I had to. There had to come a point where it had to hit bottom. Okay, so this is how it hit bottom. I went to bed last night. My friend whose house I'm living in right now, he he's in Florida, so he went away. So
Right.
I'm babysitting his dog, and
Okay.
she's a
Oh
14.
no! Don't tell me the dog ran away.
No.
Okay.
She's a 14-year-old lab mix,
Okay.
black dog, and she's as gentle as a lamb. She's a great dog, very smart. Very, you talk to her, she talks back to you. It's like it's amazing. Well, she has uh she has a dire fear of thunderstorms,
Oh.
and when thunderstorms are going on, she goes into the bathroom and she hides in the bathroom. All right. 5 o'clock this morning, Joe. You know the boilerplate I live under. We had a wicked heavy thunderstorm. Lot of thunder, really loud. And I knew the dog was going to have an issue. I woke up, the thunder woke me up, which is usually I sleep through all that stuff. So the thunder woke me up. So I went and found the dog, and she was in the bathroom. And she wanted to go out, but there was still thunder going on, so she wouldn't go out. Well, I got a whiff of something.
Oh no.
Okay,
Oh no.
I got a whiff of something. And the thing is, it's a two-story house. So I went upstairs and all over the floor. And I
Okay.
mean all over the floor. And she's not one to be, let's say it wasn't a spring flower patch. Okay. In term, so I'm there at 5 o'clock in the morning cleaning that up, and then I had to scrub the floor clean to get rid of the and she walked in it, so she trailed it all through the house. So I thought at that point, I figured, you know what, that's bottom. It can't possibly get any worse. And you know what? It didn't. Actually, my two major technical issues that I had last night uh, somehow fixed themselves today. I went in to look at them to see what I could do, and lo and behold, they were repaired. So everything was uphill after the dog took a dump. So
Maybe
anyhow,
that's what was needed to break the curse.
so well, this would have broken any curse, I guarantee you. That this this would have made you cry. Okay, it really would.
Oh God.
You'd think you were peeling onions. It was awful, but no matter. We did have, and I looked at it on the radar, Joe. It was just it was a kind of a tiny line. I wasn't able to follow it back, but Chuck Cardillo said in the Catskills where he was early this morning, they got hit by some thunderstorms. So it might have been the same little group that came down. So after that went by, I didn't walk today, and I didn't walk today because this had to have been the most humid day of the entire summer. I could see the humidity in the air. At around midday, I literally could see it. And as I'm walking, I could feel the wetness. It was horrible. And I was like, I'm not walking in this. I'm just not. So Now we are getting set for maybe some shower activity, maybe not. Some places are going to get more, some places are going to get less. And then we've got the weekend to figure out.
Well, last night I was outside late last evening watching for some of the meteors from the Perseid shower, and I got to tell you that the real sky show for me was not the meteors; it was the heat lightning. There was a line of showers and embedded strong thunderstorms, but it was about 100 to 120 miles north and northwest of me, from about Binghamton to Albany to Rutland, Vermont,
Mm-hmm.
and yet with the skies generally clear, I could see lots of stars, and there was no problem there. But the heat lightning, the flickering of the sky in the north and northwest, told me that there was something out there. I knew from not seeing any bolts or not hearing anything that whatever I was seeing was fairly well off. And that's when I checked the radar, and so I was seeing lightning from a storm front that really was over 100 miles away. But and that was putting on more of a show in the flickering effect as opposed to the actual shooting stars that were
Yeah.
predicted last night.
Well, I didn't even think to look last night. Out here, the low clouds come in pretty quickly, no matter what.
Right,
In August,
right.
almost as soon as you turn the calendar, you get and the water temperatures get up into the mid 70s. You get these low clouds that come in at night, and they're there in the morning. Oddly enough, after the thunderstorm went by, actually the sun came out briefly before it clouded over all over again today. And even though I didn't see it, there were some thunderstorms around. I could hear the thunder all around me this afternoon. And they got hit rather hard in southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, yet again. Numerous severe thunderstorm warning and flash flood warnings that went up this afternoon for that zone.
Even
Uh,
in New York City.
the storms never did quite make it to me, but no surprise. The humidity, the tropical air is completely in control here with that little weak frontal boundary that's sitting overhead. So all it took was a little bit of a ripple, and they fired off.
Right. And Boilerplate City here, Joe, we didn't get a drop of rain either after midnight last night and all through the day today. And in fact, we did get to 90 here at the home base. So we could have used a nice cooling thunderstorm, but we didn't get it. But maybe in the next couple of days, one will pass on by. And I really don't see much in the terms of a drop in the humidity until perhaps over the weekend. We will see dew point temperatures go from 66, 67, where they were today, to maybe 63, 64 by Saturday.
Yeah,
I know that's not much of a drop, but
we can get
anything
that
is
high to
still a little.
push down some dry air from New England. Saturday may turn out okay for air, as you, especially up by you, and for New England, maybe down to New York City and Long Island. Places further south might have a bit of a problem with cloud issues because they're going to be closer to the frontal boundary. But either way, I think that's the better of the two weekend days.
Yes, I think I think the weekend will be dry. I think our next chance for any wet weather may not come until sometime Sunday night or early on Monday. Early on Monday.
Yeah, low going to the lakes like it does in the wintertime, and the warm front kind of sweeps back up, and there might be some decent overrunning rain over areas that don't need it.
Uh, it's been ever since the spring, ever since we had that. I forget what date it was exactly. I think it was sometime in mid-April, where the derecho came on through. Or am
Yeah,
I confusing that with another? So it's been very active for southern and central New Jersey. No question about that.
yeah, they're in the target zone. So in those areas in eastern Pennsylvania, southeastern, south central Pennsylvania, and southward, southern New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, northeastern Virginia. Just looking at the watches and warnings map, they've got flash flood watches up there. You got to remember the threshold here for flooding is pretty low. So even if you only wind up, say, if you wind up with an inch or two out of a thunderstorm, that's going to be more than enough to cause some flash flooding. They had them up for northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, and those have come down, at least for now. Who knows if they'll pop them up tomorrow? I didn't think that we're going to see a whole lot of rain with what comes up tomorrow into tomorrow night. It'll look showery to me, and places down to the south and west of New York City and Philadelphia probably could wind up with maybe an inch or two, unless there's a heavier thunderstorm in there. But for everybody else, I think it's just going to be manageable, and there are going to be breaks in there too.
I tried to see if I could time these out for tomorrow, and I just threw up my hands and said, better just to simply say ongoing risk of shower and thunderstorm activity, best chance probably sometime between 3 in the afternoon and 10 o'clock in the evening. And, that's pretty well the story for tomorrow, I think.
All right. Out in the West, we've got a full-fledged heat wave going on in California with all sorts of excessive heat, and also in the Southwest, and that's because we've got a trough in the east, and there's a ridge, an upper high out in the west. Part of that, well, we have trough being in the east. That's all part of that east-west ridge that we have. So the southern part of the United States is going to be hot in varying degrees, but it's not a full-fledged heat wave. It's not one big upper high sitting, say, in Kansas or Nebraska with a big ridge that covers the entire country. You've got a ridge in the western part, the southwestern part, a ridge in the southeastern part and out into the Atlantic, and then you got that westerly flow that goes back and forth across southern Canada and along the border states. And every once in a while, we've been seeing these short waves that have been coming down, and that has actually helped to keep the heat from getting out of control. Although it has not been doing much for our humidity, obviously. Looking at the satellite tonight, you can see the blowups, Mr. Rayo, with some of the storms from earlier. They've kind of reached their peak around 3 or 4 o'clock, and they seem to have died off a bit, although they are very active down in Maryland and Delaware. That's where they're the most busy at the moment, and that extends south and west down through Johnny Quest Land in northwestern Virginia and into western North Carolina. And we've also got some blowups across Georgia at the moment, and through central Florida, seeing some thunderstorms, and back through the central Gulf states. And the southwest can't find a cloud. And if you look up in the northwest, you see that trail of clouds there. So that's the next shortwave trough that's moving in to the northwest and into southern Canada. So our frontal boundary, Mr. Rayo, is just going to stall out, and we just have to wait for it to get pushed far enough south so we can see improving weather conditions. I'm bringing it up on the surface map, and you can see it there.
I really don't think that we're going to see much of a difference from the dew points that we had today versus what we're going to see tomorrow, even on Friday. I think we're really going to have to wait until the weekend and see the dew points drop a bit. And I do mean a bit. We're not looking for a big drop, but any drop more than, let's say, 3 or 4 degrees is certainly welcome, and maybe a bit better when we get into the early part of next week.
The dew points are in the 50s across the Great Lakes, and temperatures up in the low and mid 80s. I'm looking in Michigan and Wisconsin. I'd take that if we could. In Minnesota, temperatures are more in the 70s, and you're still getting 80s up in parts of southern Canada, south central Canada. So it's still pretty warm up there. And of course, across the south, with this broad, weak low in South Carolina, you see where the stalled frontal boundary is running right now with that little bend there right across northern Virginia and then through Maryland, southeastern Pennsylvania. So this is where we saw these thunderstorms fire up today. But it's just typical upper 80s and low 90s with dew points in the fabulous 70s. That's always fun, and it extends down into Florida. The radar tonight, starting with the Northeast, Joe, some fairly big storms still going on, as I said, around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, getting hit pretty hard. But they seem to have peaked out, and they're starting to weaken. There's nothing going on at the moment over New Jersey, eastern PA. There's something just east of you on Route 84 in western Connecticut. Very small cell there. And
maybe it's heading for Danbury or Brookfield right now.
Yeah, it could be, or right there. In the southeast, you see some of these thunderstorms in clusters, and they extend down into the middle Gulf states. A little bit of action up in parts of Minnesota today. In the northern Rockies and Plains, we're seeing some scattered showers and thunder, and a little bit of action down in New Mexico and parts of West Texas. The Storm Prediction Center by the way, had and still has, but again, they've passed that peak, that marginal risk from Western Virginia to southern New Jersey. That has pretty much played itself out for the most part. And then you've got two other small areas of marginal risk in the northern and central plains, and a small area of slight risk up into the Dakotas. There's an enhanced risk for tomorrow somewhere, Mr. Rayo, and I'm guessing it's going to be in the plains. Yeah, enhanced risk in northwestern Minnesota. And for day 3, a slight risk up in Minnesota with marginal risk down through western Iowa, eastern Nebraska. Otherwise, everybody else is in the land of general thunderstorms.
Well, I could see that that marginal risk that they have was recently added because the next 3 days. I mean, I'm talking about in our neck of the woods because today, tomorrow, and Friday were just general thunderstorm coverage until they added that marginal zone. I guess when they saw what was going on this afternoon down across New York, down through southern and central New Jersey, they said maybe we would have bucked that up a little bit, and apparently they did.
And they did. All right. So let's look at what's happening. We'll let's bring. Maybe we'll even do some of the climate models in the long range and see what they're doing. We'll do that a little later. We haven't done that in a long time. Since we're almost at the season where the below normal temperatures, above average snowfall forecasts for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states are supposed to start coming out one after another, we can give them a head start. So, how about let's do the upper air first. I always like to do the upper air so we can get a flavor of how things are working in the atmosphere. And remember, it's all been about this east-west ridge that we've been dealing with. That still remains the case, of course, and there it is out in the Atlantic. We have also this upper high in New Mexico, and that hole in between the two, that's where the weakness is, and that's where you've been getting these troughs that have been dropping in. And here's your flow across southern Canada, and this is the system that we showed you on the satellite that had moved in to the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. So as we move this along, going into the rest of what's left of this week, there's that little kink there, that weakness right in there. And that's going to be driving the weekend forecast in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states because it's going to, you got that stalled frontal boundary, you've got this energy that's coming east, and of course, north of there is this ridge in eastern Canada. So that's going to build a nice little high up in eastern Canada, and we're going to get into an onshore flow. I think, Joe, if we, depending on how much sun, well, Saturday could be a bit of an upside down day in a way. The further north you go, we'll get more sun, less to the south. So maybe in the end, the temperatures will be about the same. But with the nice northeast wind on Saturday, we probably should be able to just kind of settle in the upper 70s and low 80s and just leave it there for highs.
It would be nice. It would be nice. If I've forgotten now what it's like to have dew point temperatures in the 50s. I have forgotten what it's like to have a night where temperatures are in the 50s.
I know
it's been a long stretch of discomfort.
And it's not going to break till we get a nice deep trough in the eastern part of the United States in the right spot to bring down some Canadian air. This isn't it, by the way. The upper low that's moving across central Canada extends an arm, and you do have a nice trough swinging almost. There's a negatively tilted trough, which is something you don't see too often in the summertime. That's going to be swinging across the Great Lakes and up through the Northeast later Sunday and Sunday night. Somebody might get a decent shot of rain out of that. There's with all with this tropical air, the frontal boundary nearby, and this not too shabby looking shortwave trough that's swinging around. I think somebody might get a decent amount of rain out of this.
Well, the perceptible water values, a case in point, what we saw today. I mean, there's some places in New Jersey and even up in the New York area that picked up in only an hour's time something on the order of like 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. So there you go. We certainly have more than enough moisture, and any one singular cell is certainly capable of bringing you a a torrential downpour and may lead to some localized flooding issues. So we'll see.
By the way, I'm looking at this, and you should have it on your screen right now. This is the 96-hour GFS upper air for Sunday afternoon. If you look at that upper air, that whole profile, that is not a summer profile when you look at it, because you've got this wrapped up low in the Gulf of Alaska. You've got this ridge building up the west coast, deep trough, central Canada, southeast of the mid-Atlantic states. There's a low, a cutoff low southeast of Greenland with an upper high building over the top. I mean, this is. I wonder what would happen if we had this, say, 2 months from now. I'm only from the standpoint of getting some reasonably cool air to come down out of Canada in a flow like this, but it's still just a little bit too early, and the trough is actually too far west for us. No, it's just kind of interesting to see so much amplitude for the middle part of August.
Well, I tell you, the one summer that jumps out in my memory, the summer of 1979. Um, for example, on this day in 1979, Joe, the high in New York City was 65, and we had almost 2 inches of rain. And that's interesting because 2 days earlier, on this 2 days earlier in 1979, the temperature in New York City was like 95 degrees.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we had this big shift in the upper level winds, this trough moving through, dumped a lot of rain, kept us rather cool. And I remember right after that, for several days, we had a seemingly unending northwest breeze, temperatures struggling to make it much above 70. You couldn't believe that we actually had temps in the 90s just a few days earlier. And all of a sudden, with that shift in the winds, and I'd love to see that upper level wind, uh, that you're depicting here, which seems like the lion's share of the cool, dry air is falling into the northern plains and the western lakes. I'd love to see that trough shift over maybe about 5 or 10 degrees more to the east and let some of that air come.
Look once again though. Look at the amplitude here. This is for the middle part of next week. Look at the amplitude of this trough. I mean, that's insane. You've got the westerlies down into the north central Gulf of Mexico, for God's sake. That is so anomalous for this time of year. And again, and I pointed this out yesterday, that this is the kind of thing this is exactly what brought Isaias up the coast, a trough just like this. And the this time around, we're lucky because with a trough like this, we don't have a tropical system in this position. Because if we did, this would probably shoot up the coast and make it for a very close call. But I guess my primary concern is that as you know, I'm a full proponent of the idea of when patterns don't repeat exactly, but they do rhyme while you're in a certain period of time. These repeating anomalous deep troughs in the eastern part of the United States better not show up if there's if in the next 6 weeks or so, if we wind up having a major hurricane someplace off the southeast coast of the United States with a trough like this, that would spell big trouble.
Indeed, absolutely. And we're not. I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine, a few hours ago, and I said, you realize that the peak of the hurricane season, or the most activity, hasn't even arrived yet. It's from mid-August to mid-October. The traditional peak day is September the 10th. I said, we haven't even gotten there yet, and already we've had 2 tropical cyclones pass through the tri-state region. What possibly could be awaiting us?
Well,
Well,
let's see. That's going to lift out. By the way, that trough does lift out. Eventually, we're now into the last week of August on the long range, which we only have out to 270. But again, if you look at this, this is 12 days from now. What do you have? You still have the same ridge east-west in the Atlantic. You still have this upper high sitting over New Mexico. Nothing has changed, and you have this active, busy flow out of the Pacific with these systems going by. And here's your hole right in the middle. So these troughs keep wanting to drop in. Again, in the long haul, if we're still in a pattern like this come late August, September, be very careful. By the way, the GFS has been telegraphing this, just as a side note. This is what's left of a wave that moves off the East Coast at some point, the wave that goes out for Friday, Saturday, and moves east. It moves well east. That actually, the GFS was trying to make that into a tropical storm. It's an ocean storm. It's not going to bother anybody, but it may very well get a name out of the way. So you don't be shocked if we wind up seeing. And we'll talk about Tropical Depression 11 in a little bit, but we could also very well get the K name out of this if that winds up verifying.
Wouldn't that be
And
funny if that? Wouldn't that be funny if that system that you're pointing to right now, if the depression that everybody is watching takes its sweet time, and that system that you're pointing out right now ends up being Josephine?
well, the depression's got about a 2 day window to develop. That's going to come a little bit later in the long range. So I think the TD would go first because it'll be gone once it gets to the Leeward Islands, at least based on what we've been seeing with the upper air. So just to follow it along on the surface map here, and there's the GFS with some showers tomorrow afternoon, New Jersey to Long Island, Eastern Virginia. They don't quite get to you though, and then they just kind of die out, and then you have that high. There's that high building in southeastern Canada that creates the onshore flow. And now we've got some showers here. All of a sudden, the GFS is actually a little bit faster, Joe. It looks like it has these showers here by Sunday morning, but it's bringing them up through Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania late in the day, Saturday into Saturday night. And it's got the showers here during the day on Sunday. And there's that wave that I was mentioning. It moves off the New Jersey coast Monday morning and then just kind of moseys away out to the east-northeast. And the trough still kind of hangs around, so we still have a bit of a boundary along the coast there for the middle part of next week. So we're not completely out of the woods, but other than that, we don't have any tropical systems, at least that's showing up on the GFS, other than what's on the Pacific side. But that they're not going to amount to much of anything at the moment. And just want to, for laughs, let's bring up the dew point, the dew point, and see if it gives us any reason for hope. Do you want some hope, Joe?
I want hope.
You want hope? All right, so I'll bring it close up.
Really, I'm trying to remember. I guess the summer of 1988 is probably the one summer that the last summer where we had such a continuous stretch of heat and humidity. I think it really finally didn't break down until sometime in late August. Although the summer of '99 was exceedingly hot as well, but that kind of broke down by the beginning of August.
By the way, just so you know, all right, just so you know, the GFS at 2 o'clock in the morning at Poughkeepsie, I'm assuming that's the number that's there, has a dew point of 59, and for Bridgeport has a dew point of 60 tonight.
Right.
Okay, so you might get your little dew point break. I won't.
We'll see.
By morning, it's got your dew point down to 62-ish. But look at the dew points in southern New Jersey, down into Delaware, Maryland. They're all in the low 70s. And then, of course, they just shoot back up. There's a 70 dew point at Poughkeepsie by tomorrow afternoon. And Friday, dew points in the 60s to low 70s. And then, of course, now we get that big high to build in for Friday night and Saturday, where you actually do get some dew points into the upper 50s. I even get dew points down to 60, which would be nice. Oh, look at that. 58, 54. Not too shabby, if that's right.
Why is it, though? Why is it, Joe, that what appears on the maps, at least Levi Cohen's tropical tidbits maps, it never seems to match up with the tabular or the actual.
Well, the moss is not. It doesn't derive its stuff directly from the. However, it figures out the dew points on this thing, because the moss is model output stats, as opposed to what the model actually generates on the maps. I think is different from what it shows on the moss. What kind of dew points are you seeing on the moss?
Well, I mean, for example, for my area, it has 66 tomorrow and for Friday. Mm-hmm. It has 64 for Saturday. Then it bumps back up to 67 for Sunday and Monday, and then drops down to 63, 64 for Tuesday and Wednesday of
Well,
next
look,
week.
on the map, supposedly for Sunday morning on this is still upper 50s in Connecticut in Connecticut and southeastern New York. And
Well,
dew and dew
we'll see.
points. Oh boy, I could go to Saratoga this weekend with a 48 dew point. Wouldn't I love that? And then of course the dew points do shoot up after that. And there's your little that low for Sunday night, Monday. And I mean, it's got dew points down in the upper 50s for Tuesday and for Wednesday. It's even got 40 dew points in upstate New York and in western Pennsylvania. We should only hope and pray. Maybe that maybe that deep trough is deep enough that it'll spread some of the joy to the
You
eastern
know,
part of the United
if
States.
if that certainly looks like a for the dew points in the 40s, you're going to see me and probably the wife too in the SUV heading on north on 87 north of Albany, where it's the North Way, and we'll camp out somewhere in the Adirondacks.
That would be great. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up the CFS climate model, which is like Bullwinkle, it never works. So
Hey, Rusty,
just beware.
watch me pull a climate out of my hat
Yeah, you'll be exactly.
again.
And that trick, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Hey, you've seen the Geico commercial, right?
The guy called, yeah, yeah. Oh
Rocky
yeah,
and Bullwinkle.
that's a great commercial.
Have you seen the one
It's
where
not a cartoon. It's one of those. What do you call it? There's a word for it.
not the
Like three dimension.
claymation?
Like no, not claymation or whatever. But it's like three
That's Davy and
dimensional.
Goliath. Yeah, I forgot what it's called. I'm not a graphics person. Uh, yeah, no, those are very good. And I also the person buying the house, the new people, they just bought their house, but they have an ant problem. Have you seen that one?
I think so.
You've seen the one where they have the rat problem, and they have the 1980s band Rat singing "Round and Round." Right, but this one's a new one. It varies on that one. It's the people bought a house, but it has an ant problem. Okay, and the next shot is you see them all in the big kitchen area. All the ants are sitting there. One of them is in the refrigerator going through everything. Expired, expired, expired,
Expired. Expired.
expired. All right, so the CFS.
Thank you, Timothy Veltman. Tim Veltman just said if I do go on that little trek on 87, be sure to stop on by here and say hi on the way by.
So here's this is, let's see, this is for August. Not did I put up the weeklies? No, hold on a second. Let's start this is supposed to be for September. Okay, so this is September. I brought the temperature profile, so this is all above normal by a couple of degrees. Some spots near normal. Here's October, still above normal. Here's November, still above normal, but it's near normal across the plains, the Mississippi Valley, and the Western Lakes. Now, December is normal, Joe, and look, it's below normal from the lakes northwest up into Canada. And then here's January. The whole country is on fire. Unless, should I hit the button for February? The snow lovers are looking at this and they're lining up on the cliff already. So here's January, February. The whole, my God, it's summertime.
So, in other words, what you're saying is, according to this model, we're looking forward to January and
Can't do February.
February. February would be
And March. Look at that. Look at that. That's insane. And someone was saying about a week ago it was showing a colder winter. Now it's completely just backed off from that. I haven't looked. I haven't looked at this. Yeah, I look at this stuff for fun. I don't take it seriously.
But we've seen winters in the last decade. We've seen unseasonably warm winters, unseasonably warm months that have been accompanied by heavy snowfall. So
if you for me, for my own personal taste, if you could arrange something like that, I wouldn't particularly mind. The brutal cold is not something that I particularly enjoy. So if you could bring me some snow on my birthday without the brutal cold stuff, the long-lasting brutal cold stuff. I'm okay with that. I truly am. I'm at peace with it. I'm centered.
I
Okay.
wouldn't mind having a I wouldn't mind having a big winter snowstorm so long as the very next day the temperatures have risen into the 40s or even the 50s. Makes it a lot easier to get rid of the snow. But that's the kind of stuff you expect in March and April, not necessarily January or February.
Well, Joe, just in terms of the upper air, I'm just looking at the upper air. The upper air for December is interesting enough, but the with lower heights in the east and higher heights across the southeast and the southwest. But then it's mostly a ridge in the east for January, February, and March. It'll be like that winter. What was it? 1989 that we had one of those winters in the late 80s or early 90s? Was it 89? We had one of the coldest Decembers on record,
That was 89,
and then
yeah.
January and February were two of the warmest January February combos on record.
It flipped on New Year's Eve. I
Yes.
remember it well. That was such a cold winter, a cold December that I went out. I think it was like the week before Christmas. I had we had some stale Christmas cookies. I mean, they were not.
Aren't all Christmas cookies stale?
So Renata says, go outside and give it to the birds. And I went outside. I opened the thing up, put a few cookies on the floor. All of a sudden, Joe, it was like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and it was getting swooped and dive bombed by seagulls. They were coming at me, and all that. I just like I threw the tin up in the air and went right back into the house. And they attacked. They attacked those cookies.
Oh, well,
Those seagulls. I mean, everything was frozen.
yeah.
It
So
was incredible.
they saw a free meal. They went for it.
They
All
did.
right, so that pretty much wraps up the climate models. Let's take a look at Tropical Depression 11, which is still not a tropical storm. And honestly, this is going to do what it's going to do. I'm not really putting a whole lot of energy with this because of the way things are in the upper air. You can see the Hurricane Center's latest forecast. They do strengthen it to a tropical storm tonight and take it basically west-northwest, passing it north of the Leeward Islands, and then gradually it just becomes a tropical depression. And in fact, if you follow it along, we can follow it along on the GFS because it actually winds up getting absorbed. If this is right, it'll actually wind up getting absorbed by that system I mentioned earlier that could wind up developing into something tropical, the non-tropical low that forms. Let's just take a look on the Atlantic view here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here we are on the GFS for tonight, and here's your tropical low that is the tropical depression 11, and as we move it along, it moves west-northwest, and it holds on to its identity going northwest of the Leeward Islands, but then it just loses it. And you see it there. It still has a little closed isobar, some kind of remnant low. And then here's that wave that I was telling you about on Friday that moves off the mid-Atlantic coast and then starts to wrap itself up south of Newfoundland. It actually drops southward. I don't know if it's going to have time to become tropical, but it may very well be. Here's what's left of your tropical depression, and it just kind of winds up. Well, look at that low actually on this run, Joe, drops pretty far to the south, and then it turns westward. You see what it does? Take a look. So you can see it goes south of Newfoundland, then it moves
Right.
east, southeast, south, and then west before it does a full loop out in the Atlantic before it runs up to the northeast. I think that would be something that would be transitioning over into a tropical storm over time. The GFS has been showing this for a couple of days, so we may actually get, as I said, we may get a name out of this just from this non-tropical system because we
That
do.
would be Kyle.
Kyle is the K
If
storm,
if Josephine is the J storm, Kyle is the K storm. So yeah, we'd have a Kyle.
and L is.
I don't remember what L is.
I don't remember either. All right,
Lonnie.
what's that?
I was going to say Lonnie.
Lonnie.
No, it would be if it was Kyle. The K storm is a male, so the L storm would have to be a female.
Yes.
So
All right. So you guys, know pretty well that the upper air winds over the Caribbean and over the Leeward Islands are not going to be conducive for tropical storm. Not only conducive for storm formation, be downright hostile for anything that runs into it. You've got really strong shear here that's evident in the Northeast Caribbean and running up right over the top of your tropical system. So it looks to me that even if it were to become a tropical storm, which it may very well do, it's got the next 2 days where conditions are going to be favorable for it to strengthen. It's going to run into this buzzsaw with the wind shear, and that's going to pretty much put an end to that. So we're back full screen as we take a look and see the folks on the chat board. I hope everybody's having a great night tonight and things are all well, and your dog didn't poop all over the house.
I do want to answer Frank Riccio. First of all, we did have a super chat, Joe.
Yes, we had Robert Russo before the show started hit super chat.
But I think we had somebody else who hit super chat.
I believe we did. Let me just see if I can see. Robert Russo and Steve Lapointe hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so much from both of you. Joe and I appreciate it greatly.
I want to thank Frank Riccio, who wrote that he said he likes my good announcer's voice, and I must tell you, Frank, I had a secret desire when I was much younger to be a baseball announcer. I wanted to be a play-by. In fact, Joe, I was not particularly athletic, so I was the kid who sat on the curb during the stickball games and actually did the announcing, the play-by-play of the stickball game. And you and I both loved and were in reverence of our dear friend, our former colleague, who passed away, I think 3 years ago, right about this time 3 years ago in 2017.
Right, Bob Wolf.
Announcer Bob Wolf.
Yes.
And I once told Bob, I said, Bob, I always had a dream when I was very young of being an announcer, a baseball announcer. And he looked at me and he paid me the highest compliment I think I've ever received. He said, "And you would have been a good one, Joe. I can tell you right now, you would have been a very, very good." And that really warmed the cockles of my heart, my baseball loving heart or whatever. So
there are there are some people that you would say that to, that I'm not saying specifically, but there are people in this industry that you were saying that as a kid would never have given you the compliment like that, and as sincere as it was, because of their own personal fears and jealousy. And Bob Wolf was just a class act all the way around. All the way around.
Absolutely.
So he meant that. He didn't just say it. He meant it.
My very first, when I was stringing at News 12 Long Island, and I did it many times for you when you were the morning meteorologist over there, and I was filling in the evening one night. This is only my third or fourth time. Nobody was telling me how I was doing. Nobody was saying you're doing bad, you're doing good, you got to improve on this. Nobody said a word. And Bob Wolf, who was on the other side of the building where the sports department was, he came all the way to my side. We were in the graphics room where we were doing our weather presentation. We were putting our stuff together. He actually came up, he held out his hand. He says, he says, "I don't think we met." He says, "My name is Bob Wolf." And of course, I've been watching Bob Wolf doing Ranger games and Knick games.
Mm-hmm.
He was treating me as if I didn't know who he was. Of course, I knew who he was. And then he looked at me and said, "I've been listening to you. I've been watching you." He says, "You're going to do all right in this business." He said, "I know you're just at the beginning, but and I never, that was so amazing when he said that, the great Bob Wolf told me that. And years later, when he and I were and this shows you how great Bob was. Bob was in his 90s and he got nominated for an Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to be at the same Emmy ceremony. And Bob brought all of his grandkids were there.
Oh, nice.
I went up to one kid. He must have been like 12 years old. And I said, "Your grandfather is a really great guy. He's an amazing guy. You should be so proud to have him." And the kid's eyes like rolled back in his head, like he's heard that like already like 100,000 times. He said, "Yeah, I know."
Well, Frank Riccio says, and he's right, it's never too late.
It's never too late. Now, some of you have been on the chat board talking about when is the old Farmer's Almanac coming out, because you want to know what they're going to say for the winter. I don't have a copy of the old Farmer's Almanac, But I do have a copy of the 2021 version of their competitor, the Farmer's Almanac. So if you're interested, Joe, why don't I read to you what the Farmer's Almanac is calling for the upcoming winter season. Are you ready for this?
Go on.
Okay, let me just get it here. I had it and I lost it. Okay, here we go. This is a quote again from the Farmer's Almanac, not the old Farmer's Almanac. It says, over the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastal plain, we are red flagging, and they put that in quote marks, we are red flagging the second week of February for possible blizzard conditions, with the big cities from Washington, D.C. to Boston possibly in line for 1 to 2 feet of snow. Another comes during the third week of February when we're forecasting a southern plains winter storm, which will bring copious amounts of snow, sleet, and rain. And finally, we're anticipating another for much of the eastern half of the country during the final week of March. This storm will track from the nation's midsection to central New England, bring significant late season snow to the north of the track, and showers and thunderstorms to the south of the track.
Well, we're south of the track. We're south of that track.
Well, they said that the track, let me get it back here again. I think they said
from the midsection to New England, to central New England.
They said that the storm will track from the nation's midsection to central New England. So that means
that's 70s here in severe weather.
That would mean like north of us.
Yeah, so that's
we'd be in the warm shower.
Right, we'd be 60s and 70. We'd see 60s and near 70 with some severe weather. I'll be looking forward to that.
So we're looking for a blizzard, and then another storm, mid-February blizzard, and a storm at the end of March, which may bring everything from snow, sleet, rain, thunder, lightning. And this is from, again, the Farmer's Almanac 2021. Done, by the way, you know, the old Farmer's Almanac is done by somebody from AccuWeather. I forget who the fellow is who does the forecast for them. But the Farmer's Almanac says it's done by Caleb Weatherby, whoever
that happens to be.
Yes.
It beats the crap out of me. I wouldn't know. So let's do some Briller Jeopardy and get this get the questions out. Let's see. Are you ready to go?
I'm going to get my questions in just a moment.
Okay, in 2002, TV Guide published a list of the top 50 TV shows of all time. Where did The Honeymooners rank?
You know, subjectively, if they didn't make it in the top 10, I don't know what the heck, or who the heck is doing the ratings or the rankings for them. I'll say it definitely had to be in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5. I'll say number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Second question. According to the University of Nevada, what 5 states have the most seismic activity?
Which 5 states have the most seismic activity? Has to be number 1 would be California.
Go on.
Number 2, since it's right next door, Nevada. Go
on.
Number 3, there's a very active quake zone, I think, in is it in Missouri? Would Missouri be among the top 5?
Or?
No.
It doesn't mean it's not active. It's just not as active as these other states.
How about Washington State?
Hold on. I lost it. Hold on. Yes, that is correct. Go on.
Number 3.
Number 3. So you have 2 left.
How about Oregon?
No.
Or Oregon? No.
No.
How about Massachusetts?
No.
No. Couldn't be New York, could it?
No. You ready?
Ready.
Alaska.
Oh God.
And the other state that's known for its mountainous that is known for its beautiful sunshine and beaches, but has a volcano and it snows at the top of that volcano is Hawaii. Hawaii. So
I should be lashed with a whip. I mean, I went to Anchorage and I went to the museum.
Be careful.
The great 1960, the great 64 earthquake.
Yes.
What, it was 9.1 Richter or something? How could I have missed out on that? I was thinking of the contiguous
Now,
state.
which two states have the least seismic activity?
The least. The least?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Maine?
No,
Hmm. Florida.
that's one.
Florida. I'm thinking of something that's like
Now go completely the opposite.
completely the opposite from Florida.
What would you think the state that you could name is the complete opposite of Florida, especially in the wintertime?
Oh, Michigan,
Not quite. Further
Minnesota,
next door.
North Dakota.
North. Ding 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 ding
Ding,
ding.
ding, 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 ding.
Correct.
Correct. All right. So, how about this for you?
Mm-hmm.
Question one. How many 90? Of course, you're the expert on this since you did such a great job with New York in a number of 90-degree days. How many 90-degree days has Philadelphia had so far this year? And if you win, you'll get a Philly. Who's going to supply the Philly cheesesteak?
I think they got to be up over 20 by now. I would think. So far this year,
Gary,
I'll say 23.
31.
Wow, very
31.
impressive.
That is impressive. Question two, only two countries in South America don't border Brazil.
Only two.
I could tell you one of them because I've been to that particular country, but
Oh, you know what? My geography is not.
I'll give
But
you a
wait,
hint.
I guess. Does Venezuela border Brazil?
Apparently they do.
They
Yeah.
do. All right. So, and I don't remember who's next to Venezuela. So,
It's the long, skinny country.
oh, Chile. In
Chile.
Santiago, Chile. Pam, pa, pa. In Santiago, Chile. Pam, pa, pa.
Which I have
So,
been.
so Chile.
Chile and
Um, well, is it one of the Guays? Para or Ura?
it's the capital starts with a Q.
Oh, my computer's been vibrating back Santiago, Chile. I can hear it going. I don't know. I'll just take a wild guess. I'm pretty sure Colombia borders
Yeah,
Brazil.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I would have probably just guessed maybe Uruguay.
Ecuador.
Oh, Ecuador. What's the
Ecuador.
capital of Ecuador?
Quito.
Oh, Quito.
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 I believe so.
Oh, very good.
And number three, the longest bridge running across water is located in what state?
The longest bridge running across water. I mean, is there something longer? Well, Louisiana has the causeway that goes from the South Shore to the North Shore there across Lake Pontchartrain, and I
Right.
think that's 20 something miles if I remember
Can
correctly.
I ask a question? If you break down on that bridge, where do you go? There, I assume you could have to pull off to.
Well, it's southeast Louisiana near New Orleans, so they have like these emergency liquor stops along the way just in case you did break down. So
You're
you could,
right.
you just get your fishing pole out and either that or a net and scoop out some giant shrimp out of the water.
You're
Well,
right on that.
I
That was
mean,
that
when you
was
say a bridge, I mean, are you talking about a continuous bridge?
I'm quoting what he said. It's the longest bridge. He didn't say a causeway, but
I mean, because the
that's
Chesapeake Bay
there.
Bridge is 20, whatever is this, 23, 26 miles or whatever it is. Um, so, I mean, is that considered a bridge from beginning to end? I don't know.
I don't know either. But he says that what you just mentioned in Louisiana was the answer to his
Oh,
question.
so it is the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway that goes from Lake Pontchartrain to
Right.
Slidell. And
Right.
I drove that once many years. I drove that once. This was back in the mid '80s. Never mind breaking down. How about running into a thunderstorm with zero visibility while you're in the middle? Because that's what happened to me.
Oh,
All
oh
right.
God.
So
If that doesn't turn your hair white quick, that nothing will, right?
yeah.
And the last question, question four, and this question is very relevant this week.
Okay.
And find out about your friend outside on the front doorway or
She
whatever?
dismantled her web last night and left.
Oh,
So apparently she wasn't too happy with the neighborhood. Maybe the food supply, the what she was catching in terms of food didn't quite suit her. I'm not sure. But she packed it up and left.
what is the biggest spider ever observed?
The Goliath bird-eating spider.
You got it.
Oh, that's very
You
good.
got it. How
Yes.
did you know that?
Theraphosa blondie. I think it's the
Holy
scientific name.
mackerel. The Goliath
Bl-
bird-eating spider,
oh yeah,
four.
actually seen that on one of my David Attenborough adventures on BBC on Planet Earth, and yeah, Theraphosa blondie.
4.5 inches long, legs measured at up to 11 inches. We need a bigger raid. Oh,
Yeah, no, it's a fairly formidable spider.
actually, that is really the wrong answer. If you are, as I am, a connoisseur of Gilligan's Island, you may remember that there was one episode where there was a giant spider that looked like it was about the size of a Mack truck, and they sent a pigeon to go after it. You remember the episode with Sterling Holloway, and they were going back and forth with the
I
notes
probably
of the pigeon.
watched the whole series of Gilligan's Island years ago, and
They were
it
they
was
were
never one that I really was a big fan of.
they were cornered, Joe, in a cave, and they couldn't get out of the cave because the entrance was being blocked by a gigunda spider, about it looked like 5 feet long or whatever, and they had a they were if I remember correctly, Sterling Holloway played this guy at a penitentiary back in Hawaii, I guess, and he was keeping pigeons, and they were trading off notes back and forth with this one pigeon. And just as the spider's about to go in and eat the castaways, Gilligan throws the pigeon out. Save yourself! Oh, by the way, do you know what the name of the pigeon was?
No, I have no
Well,
idea.
Walter.
Walter.
Walter
Oh, Walter
Pigeon.
Pigeon. Yes.
How many of you on the chat board remember this? What I'm talking about? Anyway, the pigeon dive bombed into the giant spider and chased the spider away. And the professor later on said, "I should have remembered that. Spiders are afraid of birds, no matter how large they are. They're afraid." But
But
this is a bird-eating spider.
not the Goliath bird-eating spider.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right.
all right, look, let's call it a night. Uh, Thanks for being here, everybody. Joe and I, as always, we appreciate it. Thanks so much, Steve Lapointe and Robert Russo, for hitting Super Chat. Don't forget the show. I was, with my technical issues, I was not able to put last night's show up as a podcast. I did put it up as a podcast. I finally was able to get it done. So I'll have this up as a podcast in about an hour or so. And we will see you tomorrow right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Yes.
Good night, Mr. Rayo.